Hooray! The NEM Go has arrived. We have solar panels. These are actually 4. The other 2 are still outside. We have mounts, aluminum brackets, and we have the inverter and the cables in this box. For this one we'll need later. When we get to the electrical part, we'll start with the mechanical part of putting the panels together. So I will start with unboxing one of the panels. Let's see. Try this one. Yeah, that should work. And you see they're not too heavy. It's actually pretty easy for one person to handle them. You can throw them in a car. It's always going to be a little easier if you have someone who helps, but in principle you can do it single-handedly. Turn this off. And here we are. We will just lean it against the fence and we'll work on the back side attaching the bracket. Here's my bracket. This comes in 2 layers of packaging. One and 2. And here we go. These are all the screws that we'll need, and the only tool that we really need to put this together. So here's a little bit of trash. Everything else is cardboard, recycling. Okay. So these brackets are quite versatile. You can use them in a number of ways. We can adjust the angle, and there's actually there are some markers here that show you different angles. So for example, here we have the 30-degree marker. So this would be 30 degree from the ground. So that's relatively flat. That is the optimal angle for California year-round. But many times, depending on constraints like how much space you have or aesthetic considerations, you'll actually go steeper. And that's not a huge deal either. So don't worry too much about the angle of the panels. And then we can use these mounts either like this, sitting on the ground, or for flat ground when we put them on a patio or a deck or on a driveway. But we can also, and basically the solar panel will sit here. But alternatively, we can also use them like an A-frame if we have uneven ground. So if I wanted to place them here, for example, in my yard, and then I could have the panel sitting like this, and I could even push it or hammer it into the dirt a little bit, into the ground, to anchor it with a rubber mallet. And now our A-frame strut would come in here. This is very steep. This is probably close to 70 degrees. So we'd want to put this a little deeper into the ground, or go further out here, and then we can just place this horizontal connector anywhere here. So what we'll do now for starters is just a traditional mount for a flat surface. So we'll build them, we'll do maybe 45 degrees, which tends to look nice. And so I'll just lay it out here. You can't really go wrong here, and it doesn't matter, half an inch up, half an inch down. So now I'll grab the first pair of screws. We will use these hand screws and the wing nuts that are in the smaller pack of screws. So I'm going to use a hand screw, then one of these tensioning washers, and a wing nut on the other side. And here we go. Now let's check out 45 degrees again. Yeah, we're good. And put the second one in. Hand screw, ring, and wing nut. Okay, that's our first half for this panel, and the second one we'll put together symmetrically as a mirror image. So what I like to do is just lay them out, grab another hand screw, washer and wing nut, and then on the other side, I'll just count the holes. I think it must be this one, but to be sure and easier to count from the end because there's fewer holes to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes visible. We're at number 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 visible right here. Last one. Okay, nice and tight. And here we go. And now we'll attach these two guys to the back of our solar panel. And for that, we will use these screws. We'll use the somewhat larger washers because the holes in the solar panel are a little bit bigger, or actually the openings in the brackets, and then one of these nuts on the other side. So I'll grab 4 of these, 3 more nuts, 3 more screws, and 3 more washers, and the Allen wrench so I can tighten them. This out of the way. And now you see we have these holes. We will use these to attach the brackets. And we will want to attach the bracket as low as the upper hole allows us. So basically we start with the upper hole in the solar panel and the topmost longitudinal hole in the bracket. So So this can be a little finicky. I'll place the nut and then turn it a few turns. And once I sense that it grips, I can speed up. Okay, we'll tighten it in a sec. We'll grab another pair down here. All right, and now I just use the Allen wrench for the last final tightening. Boom. Same here. All right, and now we do the same on the other side. Tighten. And this is it. Now we can put it on the ground. If you have a deck or wooden surface, especially if there's wind where you are, you may want to actually bolt them down. You could also just bolt them to 2 pieces of wood, like 2 2x4s. You could attach basically a pair of panels to 1 pair of pieces of wood. But yeah, this thing, I can carry it around the house and place it wherever it will catch the best sun. Okay, so I just put the last of 4 panels together and we'll line them up on this deck. So this should give you a good sense of how big they are. What you see here though is that they already are getting some fair amount of shading. It's late in the afternoon, so this is not ideal. We'd want them, if we keep them oriented this way, we want to move them a little bit further out from the deck or just find another place. So ideally you'd have them oriented pretty much toward the south or the southwest. What we have here is more southeast facing. So with the sun now in the later afternoon coming around, the panels are getting more and more shade and less sun. All right, so we got these panels set up here beautifully. We're done with the mechanical part and now we get to the electrical part, which is the wiring. Here is everything we will need. So we will have, since we have 4 panels and the inverter has 2 input ports, we will pair up 2 panels each into 1 pair using these Y connectors, and then we'll connect them to the inverter. So we'll start with pairing up the panels. Red and black doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is that you hold up the Y. So this is where we'll feed the 2 panels in. And this is the one leg, the stem of the Y that goes into the inverter. So let's go behind the panels. And we will start with the first pair. I have to free up the cables, the leads from the solar panels. And so now I can grab the first, or actually I think what I'll do is we'll do red and black separately. So I'll do the second panel. Okay, so we'll start with the black Y, hold it upright, and we can't really go wrong because only one of these two cables fits here. So we'll take one from this panel and the other one, this doesn't fit, this one does, from this panel. So now we've brought them together, and then we do the same with the red, and it also doesn't matter which is red and which is black. There's no point really in those having different colors, but that's the way they make them. So now we have a pair of solar panels that we can connect to the inverter. So now we'll do the same thing over there, but since you already know what that looks like, let's go straight to the inverter. Let's unbox that. This is the inverter cord, which has the 120 volt plug, which you'll use to plug it into the wall outlet. It has a little safety piece here that you have to take off before connecting it, and then we can connect it here. In case you ever have to disassemble this, which you probably won't, there's a tool here which you can use to unlock this connector. But this is a super waterproof, tight connection. So let's grab the inverter. I've grabbed one leftover screw from the mount, so you'll have a bunch of leftover screws. And now we will hang the inverter on one of our mounts here. We can put the screw in and then hang the inverter. And then we'll just tighten the screw with the Allen wrench. And now we connect our pair of solar panels. Click. And click into the inverter. And that's it. And with the other pair, we'll do the same Y connector. And we have a 10-foot extension cord to get from the other pair to the inverter. So even if you do not have the chance to arrange these panels so neatly next to each other, maybe two of the panels are a little bit further away or even around the corner, you can use this extension to bridge the distance from the pair of panels to the inverter. And this is it, ready to plug in to our outlet and start producing power with these two panels. So now let's quickly just finish up the second pair of panels. You already know the drill. We will cut the zip ties. 1, 2, just very careful to not harm the cables when we're cutting those zip ties. That's why I prefer to cut them with this tool, not with a knife. So this time we will start with red because it really doesn't matter which color. Again, only thing we want our Y standing upright. So let's just find the cable, the connector that fits. 1 click, just make sure they click really nice and tight. Click, and same here. Click, and click. And here goes our second pair. See, we have to bridge a little bit of distance, and that is where we'll use our extra 10-foot extension. And again, red and black really doesn't matter. These cables are exactly the same. But of course, for aesthetic purposes and to not confuse anyone, we will connect black with black and red with red. Black, red. Again, nothing you can do wrong because these connectors only fit one way. And then what I usually do is I twist them up a little bit to turn them into one. There. Okay. And then you see we have extra cable length here, so these two panels could be a few feet or even a few yards further away. If you wanted them even further spread out, you can order a cable like this in 20-foot length or even 30 feet long from Amazon for a few dollars. So that's always easy to extend. And again, here we cannot do anything wrong. We just click and we are done. And now, of course, we could clean up the cables a little bit and use zip ties so these don't make noise when it's windy. We're gonna tighten down this screw and then maybe just clean up the cables a little bit with zip ties if you prefer. And that's it. All right, last step, connect the whole thing to the app to see what it's doing. I've already plugged it in, so the inverter is already powering up. And now I go to the App Store, whether Android or iPhone. I'm on an iPhone here, and I will look for the AP Easy Power app. Here it goes. This is what it looks like, AP Easy Power. It's the same color and logo that's on the inverter box. So I got the app downloaded, I've opened it. The first thing it asked me whether we should allow it to find Bluetooth devices, and we want to say allow to that because we want the app to talk to the inverter. So now it's a little bit funny, the app defaults to German because Germany is the plug-in solar country. There are millions of plug-in solar systems, and so for some reason this app, I'm sure they're going to fix this eventually, but at the moment it defaults to German. So you want to tap Neues Konto, which is new account down here, and then the first one is your username. So I'm just going to do Rupert Mayer. You choose that. Then you choose a password. It wants lowercase, uppercase, numerals, and a special character. Now the region, we go to the United States and California. And then finally it wants the PV module model. It doesn't really matter. So these are Echo Power. I think they want that just for statistics. You could put in whatever you want, but we're gonna put Echo Power here. And these are 250 watt panels. This is the maximum output. And then finally it wants my email. And I'm gonna uncheck this box here. I don't want their emails, but I do need to accept the terms of use and declare that I'm an adult. Okay, you are in the app. First thing I'm gonna do is change the language, and you see the little person icon here in the lower right, and here, that's the language. So we can change that to English. So we actually understand what we're doing here, and now everything is English. And now we go back to devices, and we say add device, add new device, and we want to do Bluetooth. We want to allow Bluetooth while using the app. And here's our inverter. We just tap it. Now the last thing we have to do is to tell it our Wi-Fi, so the inverter can connect to our Wi-Fi independent of the phone. The phone is now talking to the inverter via Bluetooth, and we're gonna tell it what our Wi-Fi is and what our password is, and then the phone can tell the inverter the password. It's going to transmit the password securely via Bluetooth to the inverter, and then the inverter will store the password, and the inverter is set up to stay connected. All right, easy device added successfully. Finish. And here we go. Status normal, network online. So the inverter has been producing for a few minutes, and here comes the data. It can take a few minutes until the app updates the data, because the data goes from the inverter to the cloud, from the cloud back to the app. And we're seeing that our panels produce 185 watts now. That's because it's late in the afternoon and these panels are already getting a little bit of shading. Let's actually fix that. So we're gonna pull the panels just to see the difference. So we're getting 183 watts when in theory, under perfect conditions with these 4 times 250 watts, you should get close to 1,000 watts. 900 is actually the maximum output of the inverter. So let's see what happens. I'm gonna put the phone aside and just pull these panels a little further out into the sun. And I will also orient them a little more toward the sun. You see, it's relatively easy to manipulate these panels just as a single person. I'm gonna get them out of the shade. So it also comes in quite handy to have this extra leeway with the cables, so you can shift things around a little bit until you found the optimal position. And now I think we probably have at least doubled our output with all the panels. And here we go. 324 watts, 506 watts. So we almost tripled. And now you see the sun is hitting the panels at quite an angle. So if we want to do one more round of improvement and improve the angle further, just want to make sure that the panels don't shade each other. So now we've landed at the setup that I described earlier, where maybe you have space for 2 of the panels a little bit apart from the other 2. And now we're producing 652 watts. So that's pretty good. And that's it, we're all set.